All right, joining me now is Alex Friedman, Director of Communications and Broadcasting for the Oklahoma City Dodgers, who is the AAA affiliate of the LA Dodgers. Alex, first, I do want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me on One and Done Radio.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Well, to get to where you are today, I'm sure you had a lot to go through. It wasn't that you were just thrown the job right out of college or whatever it might be. What did it take to get to this point?
Yeah, so there was a little luck involved, which we'll talk about when we get down the road. But yes, when I went to school, I did not go to school to do this job. Quite frankly, I wasn't even quite sure that it was a possibility. I went to school and for college and majored in journalism and political science. I first started thinking I was going to be like a regular TV or newspaper sports or news reporter. Learned after about a year that I didn't like that, but I still liked, a lot of the elements of it. So I stuck with the major. While I was in school, I did work for the TV, student TV and radio stations, just as a hobby for fun. Started doing broadcasting, both on the sports side and the music side. And as I was progressing through school, thought a couple times, well, maybe I'm going to go to law school. Then I started working for a production company that did TV shows for like CBS Sports and ESPN, and thought, oh well, this is kind of cool. This might be up my alley.
Yeah.
And when I worked at that place, there were a couple of people who were full-time employees there who knew of my kind of broadcasting hobby and said, if you don't know what you're doing after school, it's something you might want to give a try. One guy had worked in the front offices, like on the marketing side, for a couple of major league teams.
Yeah.
Another had done a little bit of play-by-play earlier in his career. So they, by no means were they saying, "Oh, you're amazing or perfect," but they knew I had some skills there that could probably end up landing somewhere. And they told me that, hey, a lot of minor league baseball teams have their own broadcast. You should give it a shot. So even though baseball's always been my favorite sport, the one I played the most, I will admit in hindsight, I didn't quite know the extent of the minor leagues that I do now. And they were at the time the high A affiliate of the Seattle Mariners. So I was there for a few seasons, didn't know any better. High Desert's a little bit infamous. It doesn't exist anymore. The team disbanded a few years ago. But yeah, it was a extremely hitter-friendly ballpark, kind of in the middle of a desert patch. The ball flew, the wind always blew out. I saw some crazy games through my time there for sure. And it wasn't exactly the best facility either. So when people hear that I used to work there, they're kind of surprised. But like I said, it was my first job out of school. I didn't know any better. So I think that was a good landing spot because you got to see a lot of different things happen to kind of get your first experience. Then in 2010, or after the 2010 season, I went through something that can happen to anyone in any line of work, is that the team underwent new ownership. They had some restructuring and they eliminated my position. They got rid of their broadcast full time. So 2011, I was actually out of baseball. Back in with my parents. Wasn't really quite sure what was going to be next. I knew I wanted to stay in baseball. I knew that even though I was getting maybe a little bit burnt out from my time in High Desert, that I still had the skills to do it, and that if I regret it, if I walked away from it. So 2011 just kind of worked a series of part-time jobs, and while trying to get back into baseball, and I was fortunate in 2012. I actually applied for a job with a different team, and unbeknownst to me, my information was passed along to here in Oklahoma City. They were looking for someone to kind of be a second broadcaster, oversee the baseball information side of things, which I thought was great. So got the job. And then about a month into after I started, my predecessor, who had the department, was the lead broadcaster, left for a job in the NFL. So then in 2012, basically, general manager said that the job it's not yours, it's yours for the rest of the season, and then we'll kind of assess. So it was kind of like a 5-month-long job interview, and they haven't fired me since. So I guess I don't like to say I've done some things right. I've just done not enough things wrong, I suppose.
It's a good way to look at it. And like you said, 5-month interview has led to I think you're doing great. If you still have the job, you still have the job, you're doing a good job. Those that have seen the interviews in the past knows that, teams have sent like hats and apparel my way. Now, your situation a little funny because you had a little bit of a delay with the Savannah Bananas in town.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, I'll quickly answer that question. I don't know because I travel with the team. So the
Sure.
Dodgers were on the road, but I will tell you some things that I've heard, but I want to give a little background on the hat situation.
Sure,
So
yeah.
we wanted to set you up with we introduced a new on-field cap this year. It's the 25th anniversary of our ballpark. So we introduced new city jerseys and city themed hats. So it's a hat with the Oklahoma City area code 405 on it, which has become, kind of a popular thing throughout sports and apparel. And it's a blue hat. It's got the state of Oklahoma, the star from its original flag, which was just a red flag with a white star that said 46 in the middle because it was the 46th state admitted to the Union. It's a different flag now, but yeah, so we wanted to get you one of those hats, kind of the giveaway hat that we did for the night that we debuted it on the field. But due to the Savannah Bananas basically taking over our ballpark last week, a lot of folks who are back in Oklahoma City, even I was on the road with the team in Sacramento, were tied up with things with the Bananas. And just unfortunately, I'm sure it's going to show up at your door as soon as we're done recording. But yeah, from what I understand, it was an incredible atmosphere. 2 nights where standing room only, basically. Now, all the ticketing, just kind of to peek behind the business side of things, all the tickets are done through the Bananas. That's how they do it, to my understanding, with every team that they visit. So they do all the ticketing, but everything else, operational wise, is run, with the regular staff in coordination with the Bananas. So just seeing the pictures and the videos again, place it just completely packed. We have some sold out games, here and there. Our biggest nights, July 3rd or 4th every year. I still think the biggest crowd I've ever seen at this ballpark was when Clayton Kershaw did his first rehab assignment back in 2017.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like that, I think, for 2 nights. And, it brings a lot of people, I think, who wouldn't normally come to the ballpark. And you hope that they have a great time there. And as a result, they end up coming to some Oklahoma City Dodgers games. So, yeah, the Bananas obviously do things a lot differently, from the way their players' entrance to even how they let fans in the stadium. They basically set up like a corral outside the stadium because their seats, it's all general admission. So basically, once the gates open, it's like, boom, everyone just kind of rushes in. So it was definitely interesting to see from afar.
Yeah. And I remember I saw a comment one time on YouTube that someone said, "This is bad for the game of baseball." I'm like, it's the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. Like,
Right.
and Harlem Globetrotters is not a team that you go and watch for true basketball. You watch for fun.
Exactly.
It's fun family entertainment. And so you mentioned the hat that you guys sent me. I mean, again, when it gets here. I appreciate it anyways. You guys have a lot of great designs on like that you guys wear when it comes to like the alternate D logo on the hats. But the color scheme in the Dodgers is very similar to obviously the LA Dodgers. Now, you don't see that in a lot of minor league teams. A lot of teams do try and be a lot different compared to the majors. But what was the idea of trying to stick with close to the Dodgers?
Yeah, it's a different background and story. So you have to rewind to 2014, is when the Los Angeles Dodgers expressed interest in purchasing the franchise. A lot of that had to do with the fact that for the previous several years, the Dodgers, their AAA team, was either in Albuquerque or Las Vegas, which those, especially now with Las Vegas with the new stadium, they didn't have it at the time. But in Albuquerque, hey, and there's nothing, it was nothing against, the people who operate those franchises. The problem was geography, and not, of course, being in terms of proximity to LA, but those are 2 extremely hitter-friendly environments. They're at higher elevation, thinner, drier air. Albuquerque, I know the numbers don't quite show it, but to me, it is the most hitter-friendly ballpark in our league, maybe in all of minor league baseball. And the Dodgers felt like their players just were not properly being developed in those environments. And it's like, well, we're going to have our guys play, 70 games at this ballpark, plus some others in some other hitter-friendly environments in the PCL. And then they're going to have to adjust to 81 games at Dodger Stadium, another however many in San Diego, another however many in San Francisco. And they just felt like it wasn't a great fit for a player development sense. So they were looking to get into a more neutral environment. At the time, the group that owned our franchise was led by a man named Peter Guber. Peter still is a minority partner of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's also co-owners of the Golden State Warriors. And Stan Kasten, the president of the Los Angeles Dodgers, that they kind of put some feelers out to be like, hey, what do you think if we were to go into a partnership in Oklahoma City? So it kind of made it a natural fit. And I think after, going through that rebranding, and first of all, we did a rebranding in 3 months, which is insane. Yeah, you don't realize like everywhere where your team name is, like in the ballpark, on just stationery, everything, until you go through a rebranding. And the discussion with the Dodgers, I think we ultimately came to the conclusion is this is the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's not, and I'm not saying this to disparage, these teams. It's not the Colorado Rockies. It's not the Miami Marlins. This is one of the premier franchise of Major League Baseball. And that when you use that name, the Dodgers, it carries more weight than others. Maybe only 3 or 4 others can really match that within Major League Baseball. And even look at their regular hat. It's their blue with the interlocking LA. You see people wear that all over, whether they're Dodgers fans or not. So it's a huge brand. You could argue, and I'm sure they would argue, one of the biggest in the entire world in terms of sports branding. So we just kind of came to the conclusion if the Dodgers were committed to Oklahoma and Oklahoma City, coming in especially as a partner now, as an ownership holder, that using the name Dodgers would be a great way to kind of establish the brand in Oklahoma City. So that was how we got to it. You mentioned the marks and logos, and those initial ones were designed by folks in LA. So shout out to Rosh Yoshida, who's one of their main graphic designers and everything. So he really came up with all the main sets that we still use for the most part today, outside of, like I said, that new on-field hat that we introduced earlier this year.
You guys play in Chickasaw Bricktown Ballpark. Okay,
yes.
I want to make sure I got that pronounced correctly.
You got it right, yeah.
Look at that. What is an experience like for fans that have never been or want to go? Like, what can fans expect whenever they go to a game there?
Well, I think our philosophy as a team, and this is shared by many, many minor league teams, is that we don't have control over what happens on the field. It's unlike a major league team where you do have players on your payroll and you are responsible for fielding your team. We don't. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, we've had tremendous teams all throughout the Dodgers' tenure. At the time we're recording this, the team is 39-14 this year. So just having an incredible season so far. And we've had so many great, talented players come through who have since matriculated onto the major leagues, whether it's with the Los Angeles Dodgers or other teams as well. So although we have had a lot of success on the field, one of our philosophy is we got to make sure that we're keeping it entertained and having a great experience with everything outside of the baseball. So that goes from everywhere from customer service to the in-game entertainment to the various food and beverage offerings that we have. So our ballpark also is located in downtown Oklahoma City, so what's called the Bricktown District. And to give you a very, very brief Reader's Digest version, this was the first major project that was completed as part of a city revitalization package back in the mid-1990s. So it holds a very special place in a lot of natives here to Oklahoma City, and there's been so much development around it. It's incredible when you look at the aerial photos of like when the ballpark opened compared to now, and everything that's different. I mean, there's basically a lot of raised buildings around the ballpark, but now we've got just 2-3 hotels that are beyond the outfield and several others. Sonic's headquarters is just across the street. So a lot has happened. So there's a lot to do around the ballpark. That's for sure. So it's definitely a very walkable environment around the ballpark. We have an open concourse here in the ballpark, so you can get a lot of different views, take in the game. It's a bigger, most stadiums these days, they're not built as big as this one is. It originally had 14,000 seats. We've reduced capacity a little bit, whether it's taking seats out or converting them into group and hospitality areas. But a lot of minor league teams, even AAA stadiums, don't have second decks these days, and ours does. So it is definitely a bigger stadium, bigger feel to it. So I think that, there's a lot that we like to do in terms of our in-game entertainment and video and all that stuff, to just constantly have stuff going on to, like I said, just make sure that people are having a great time and want to come back.
Now, for those that do attend, I know baseball, especially minor league baseball, it's really kind of hard to develop a rivalry, especially with so many interchanging teams and ownership, everything else that can change. Is there like a team when it comes to town that fans maybe get a little more excited and a little more fired up to play against?
I'm not exactly sure. I don't think so. I think that before the realignment took place in 2021, when we had both Iowa and Memphis in our league, there are a good amount of both Cardinals and Cubs fans here. So I think it wasn't maybe necessarily as much as a rivalry, but some folks got excited to see those AAA teams come to Oklahoma City. In terms of geography, Round Rock, maybe. We back in 2021 when the season started, we went into that season basically being told there wasn't going to be a playoffs. There was kind of a weird and modified playoff, but we just kind of came up with the idea ourselves in Round Rock to try and start kind of this rivalry series and kind of give it a formal name and all that. Just didn't take off, I think, on either end, unfortunately. We called it the Red Dirt Rumble. And then you've got the whole kind of Oklahoma, Texas thing that plays into that and all that. Yeah. It's not just us, but I think Sugarland, having the distinction of being the Astros AAA affiliate, they still have some vitriol thrown their way, regardless of where they're playing. This is no exception. Last year, Jose Altuve was on a rehab assignment, so you can imagine what the reception was like when he came up to bat here in Oklahoma City. But I would say lately, the one that kind of the games that have kind of taken the most importance, and I'm not sure if it is felt much in Oklahoma City as maybe it is in the other city in El Paso, because that's the team the last couple of years we've really battled for the division with. They had such a close race last year that El Paso ended up winning the division by one game. Played a lot of important games late in the schedule last year. El Paso's fans are incredible. And they're the Padres affiliate, and the Padres-Dodgers rivalry has certainly been budding. And I will say El Paso on their social media, they probably plan that a little bit more than we do. So I think that's kind of one of the more, I guess, kind of semi-rivalries that we have right now.
You mentioned some prospects. I mean, you didn't mention like prospects coming through. You didn't mention names or anything. Who are some prospects that maybe we should be on the look for to come out of Oklahoma City?
Yeah, well, I think those who are here now, who are considered the prospects, have had a little bit, at least a little bit big league experience, like pitcher Gavin Stone. He just got up there for a few starts for the first time in his major league career. Position player wise, there isn't necessarily the guys who are on the 40-man roster or the ones who are more of veterans who have been up there a little bit before. We've got some intriguing relievers, I feel. Our bullpen's been great all year. Nick Robertson is a guy who hasn't been the big leagues yet, a big right-hand reliever with 3 different pitches, and he's off to a great start this year. Brian Hudson, a left-hander, another tall reliever out of the bullpen, actually was a minor league free agent, signed out of high school with the Cubs and reached free agency for the past time this year. And the Dodgers have made some adjustments with him. And, he's a kind of a taller, lankier guy, but, big extension, ball gets on guys quick. He's having a tremendous season as well. I think the biggest crop of prospects, although I do want to mention one guy who has been here for a couple of weeks, is Johnny DeLuca. He started the year at Tulsa, played his way into a promotion. He was actually added at the 40-man roster this past offseason, and he's been a big spark to this offense because the strength of this team for the most part this year has been the pitching, but he's provided some nice addition to the lineup there. But the big prospects for the Dodgers are all right now in Tulsa to the AA level. So their rotation right now is just ridiculous with Nick Nastrini, Emmett Sheehan, Landon Knack, guy by the name of Kyle Hurd, who's been having an incredible year. So those guys will probably be up here at some point this year. They also have Diego Cartaya, who's considered the best catching prospect in all of baseball. And he, as the day of recording this, he's homered in 4 straight games. So I think that's where like the big prospects are right now, are all in Tulsa. So they might begin to Oklahoma City here sometime in the near future.
Giving back to community is a big thing for me. Giving back to local community. How did the Dodgers get back to the community?
So we started our own foundation back in 2015. So it is kind of the nonprofit arm of the Oklahoma City Dodgers. The formal title is the OKC Dodgers Baseball Foundation. So that again started in 2015, full 501c3, all that stuff. So it has an executive director and a couple of other full-time employees. I'm proud to say that I sit on the board of directors and have from day one. And the biggest mission for the foundation is to further youth sports. So we partner with Oklahoma City Parks and Rec, what's called the OKC Dodgers Rookie League. That began in 2018. So the foundation provides all jerseys, hats, a bunch of equipment as well, resources for coaches, scholarships for players to be able to reduce those entry fees or cover them completely. So it's just expanding the game, providing more access to kids who might not necessarily play baseball, not because they weren't interested, because it might be cross prohibitive. So reducing those costs, breaking down the barriers, setting up that rookie league that we do for both baseball and now softball this year too, having both leagues in the spring and the fall. So that's really one of the biggest things the foundation does. Again, the focus is on youth sports, but we focus a lot of other aspects of the community as well as an organization. And the day we're recording this tonight's our Military Appreciation Night. We have Tinker Air Force Base here in Oklahoma City, huge Air Force Base. So to be able to show our appreciation to them. Also, we have what's called our Integris Home Run for Life series, where we partner with the Integris network of hospitals here in Oklahoma City, and we highlight one person a month who's gone through a lot in receiving care in one of Integris's facilities, and we honor them before a game. They get to take a lap around the bases. Both teams, both the home team and the visiting, come out to recognize them. So there's some other things that I'm forgetting right now, but yeah, we're definitely very invested in the community.
Now this is a question I love asking everyone that I've interviewed so far. What do you think sets minor league baseball apart from majors? Because Major League Baseball gets so much hype and flash and gets all the glory, but minor league baseball plays such a big role in that. What do you think separates minor league baseball from majors?
To me, it's the access that fans have and the access that media has as well, and that you can basically go down. I mean, I know you technically can do this in the major leagues as well, just to kind of go down to the front row before and after games to get autographs, but it's not quite the zoo that it is in Major League Baseball. Guys are, I don't want to say more approachable to say that they aren't in the big leagues, but, and the bullpens and whatnot and in the big league stadiums, rightfully so, they've got security field all the time, and have that here. And at the minor league level. So I think the access is a bigger thing. There's a lot of stuff that is offered to the fans that don't get afforded to fans in the major leagues, like a chance for kids to run the bases after the game, or to be able to participate in some of the fun stuff that takes place on the field. And of course, the cost is going to be significantly lower than it is at a major league game as well.
Now let's have some fun. I love doing fun questions. First one that, again, I've been asking everybody as well. Besides your own affiliates, what minor league team, logo, or mascots your favorite that stands out for you?
Ooh, it's a good question. So I do get a kick out of Tacoma. It's not their official mascot. That's Rhubarb the reindeer. But Tacoma is known for having the Epic Sax Gorilla, which I do enjoy when we go play in Tacoma. So I like the Epic Sax Gorilla a lot, even though he's not the official mascot. I do like Chico, the mascot in El Paso. I think he does a really good job. Ooh, logos. I don't like the new name that was introduced last year for Sugarland, the Space Cowboys. But I do like their logos. I will say I do like their logos a lot. I just don't necessarily care for the name. So I definitely, that's some that off the top of my head I enjoy. I'm so focused on just our team and the other teams that we play. I'm sure there's a lot that I'm forgetting. But yeah, those are some of the ones that kind of quickly come to mind.
So some constructive criticism for Sugarland, what would you change the name to?
Oh boy. Now you're really asking the hard question. I wasn't expecting the follow up there. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I think there are some different ways that you can play off, the space industry and the Astros and all that stuff. I like the concept of it.
Sure.
I just don't like the name Space Cowboys necessarily.
Now, college World Series of college softball. Sorry, I got that wrong.
Yeah,
coming up. I mean,
it's going on right now.
I would say it's happening now. Yeah,
as we're recording. Yeah.
What's it been like being in Oklahoma City when that's happening?
Yeah, it's always such a great event, and it's basically about, well, I should say now in the recent past is about 50-50 if we're in town or not. But in the past, we'd almost always be home when our ballpark would host the Big 12 tournament. So that would always be over Memorial Day weekend. That's since shifted to Globe Life down in Arlington the last couple of years, and I think we'll be there for the next 2 or 3 years as well. So we would almost always be home during the Women's College World Series because we'd be coming off our big road trip because Big 12 was here, and then that would be the same week as the Women's College World Series started. So, yeah, there's just, like I said, we talked about the location of our ballpark, kind of the main activity hub. So you see fans with all the different schools walking around. Just driving into work today, went right by the hotel where the University of Washington's team is staying at. I saw them going out on the bus. Yesterday when I came to work and I was walking up the stairs to the press box, there's a Residence Inn that's kind of across the street. I didn't know what team was staying there, but I could hear like the fans cheering for them as they were getting to be on the bus and all that. That's actually the first time I ever came to Oklahoma City, was working for student radio covering when my school got to the Women's College World Series back in 2006. So it was a great experience to be a part of. And yeah, there's definitely just more of kind of a vibrant energy around the stadium, and the folks there at USA Softball and ASA, they do such a wonderful event. I don't think I've ever heard a single person say a bad thing about attending the Women's College World Series. So it's really a fun time and adds a lot to the city.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No, absolutely not.
Ooh, controversy. Not for me. I don't think it is either. But
it's its own thing. It's its own thing.
Because it's between a bun. No, it's not. Okay.
No.
Last question. If you could change one thing about the sport of baseball, what would you change?
Oh boy. Well, if you were to ask me this question about 2 years ago, it's since been remedied, and that would be the pace of the game.
Yeah.
2021. I mean, things then were getting to be unbearable, to be honest, and I remember we would play games that routinely were going 3.5 hours, and it's not like they were high-scoring games either. So that's been the main thing that I think has definitely been addressed. I'd have to think about what else. Well, I'm sure there's something I'm going to think of as soon as we're done. Oh, figure out the blackout situation for MLB TV. That's the biggest thing. I would say make it. We live in a day and age where this shouldn't be a problem anymore. And I know there's a lot of contracts and stuff that go on behind the scenes, a lot of money at stake, but there's got to be some kind of solution. And in terms of broadcasting as well, I wish the one thing that we could change. So all of our games are streamed on MiLB TV. And if you watch the Oklahoma City Dodgers on the road, you can watch their game, but it's going to be the home feed.
Yeah. I
would love the ability to be able to use the visiting team audio with that video. That'd be great. When Oklahoma City had an AHL team back in 2014, 2015, I worked for them part-time on a game day basis just for fun and to help out. And the AHL had that technology that many years ago. So the fact that we still don't hear is a little bit frightening. And I bring it up with the folks in charge every single year, and hopefully it'll change soon.
Now, for those that don't know where to find you guys on social media or online, where can everyone find you guys? Yeah,
the team on Twitter and Instagram is at OKC_Dodgers. Facebook, it's facebook.com/OKC Dodgers, all one word. It's a little bit confusing. Me personally, I'm at AZ Friedman if you want to ever want to fill your interest in terms of weird baseball stats and Oklahoma City Dodgers trivia. The occasional music or food take will be on there as well, but that's how you follow us on the socials.
He is again Alex Friedman, Director of Communications and Broadcasting for the Oklahoma City Dodgers. Alex, thank you again for taking time out of your busy day. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Ryan.